You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm Stephen Cabral, and today on our Training Thursday edition, we are looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of barefoot training. So if you're not familiar with barefoot training is, definitely tune in for 1 second as I give you a quick update. So barefoot training essentially was this thing, I think it's probably started now 10 years ago that it started to become a little bit bigger, but we still see more and more people who are getting into it, finding out about it for the first time. So essentially it means doing your exercise, whether it's in the gym training, doing anything from weightlifting to just a regular class to, of course, yoga, things like that, to then running outside barefoot. And we know that there's obviously straight barefoot training, and we're going to get into this. And there's also different variations of that with different types of sneakers, the vibrant 5-finger, all different types of things like that. But let's get into it. Let's see, is there actually a better training stimulus by training barefoot? And what are some of the pros and cons of that? Because there are certainly a lot of pros, but a lot of things that you do have to be careful. And so let's get into that now. Now, why this whole thing about barefoot training in the first place? Well, keep in mind that your foot alone, so your foot and ankle, consider your ankle part of your foot, that there's 26 different bones. That's 1/4 or 1/4 of all the bones literally in the human body. It's an amazing thing. 33 joints just in your foot. Think about it, like your lower leg has the knee joint, and then you go up to your hip. There's so many joints and so much intricacy to the foot that, of course, we have, doctors that specialize just in that, which is called podiatrist. And you see a podiatrist when there's a specific foot-based issue because it's so specialized. I mean, there's more than 100 muscles, tendons, and ligaments just in the foot alone. And that doesn't include the nerves and all the other soft tissue as well. So we have to look at the foot literally as a very specialized part of our human body, which is our equipment that we move with. And even more so, everything above it, meaning literally your entire body, stems from the foot. Meaning when we look at the kinetic chain, if something's wrong with the knee, the hip, the lower back, we have to look at the foot first. And a really good personal trainer, a really good exercise physiologist or naturopathic doctor or orthopedic doctor will understand that the joints above are oftentimes influenced by the feet. And that means your feet could pronate, they could roll in, they could supinate, they could do all sorts of different things. And by strengthening the feet, which we're going to get into now with barefoot training, can actually make all of those other joints above it, as well as the muscles, respond better to exercise and get rid of a lot of those nagging injuries. So some of the pros are this. When you don't have any shoes on, it's literally just your bare foot or maybe socks, you're able to feel the ground better. And when you're able to feel the ground better, it's called proprioception. That's the feeling part of it. Your body can then respond through its nervous system more appropriately and stimulate muscles that should then keep you better balanced. It should then build up the arches for people who have, collapsed arches or flat feet. It will allow you to get better into the larger muscle groups. It won't allow you to strike as hard on the heel because there's not as much padding, which we're going to get into in a second with barefoot running. So there's a lot of reasons why you should or potentially may be able to exercise barefoot or maybe just with a flatter shoe. So let's get into this now because there's a lot of cons to it. Now, the cons are this. When we humans were first starting out, there were no asphalt roads, right? There were no hard surfaces beyond dirt or grass or, of course, rocks or things like that. But humans wouldn't be running along rocks in the same way we're running along asphalt right now. So when we're looking at running barefoot, which is very different than weight training barefoot Actually, there's no downsides really to that, except you have to be careful, of course, when you have bare feet, that you don't drop any weight on them, that your workout area is very clean, that you're not going to step on anything, you don't have any cuts in your feet that may get germs into them from the actual surface that your feet are on. So you could train in socks, you could train in something like that, grip-based socks. They actually make socks for yoga and for different modalities like that have, it's a sock, very thin, but it has grip on the bottom of it, and that can help as well. But let's talk about running, because the reason I bring this up and the reason why I got a little bit of fodder for this podcast today is I was in Maine over the weekends around the Kennebunkport area, and beautiful day. I mean, absolutely gorgeous day on Sunday morning, and they were holding something called the Maine Coast Marathon. And as they're running by where I am, it was like around like mile 22, and around mile 22, you see a lot of people hurting, right? It's the end of the marathon. You can really see the form breaking down. Well, there's a few people, one guy in particular I was watching, because I love looking at form, of course, like me and a few other people in the world might get interested in that. But anyway, this guy who's probably in his, let's say, mid-50s, he was running along and he had no shoes on, and he just didn't forget them, like he was purposely running barefoot. Now, this is a marathon running on asphalt, like on the street. And there's rocks, there's all sorts of things going on. And that's one of those people who I believe missed the point of what barefoot training is supposed to get you. And yes, the barefoot training does show in multiple studies that there's lower contact time. There's lower, basically, it's called flight time between reps. There's less peak force. And that's because when you're running barefoot, this is a good thing, you're learning to teach your body not to strike as hard. You're learning to actually land more mid-foot or front foot so that you don't get that shock of people landing on their heel. Because for the most part, people do run incorrectly. I mean, they literally land on their heel, and that force is generated right up your leg into your lower back. And it's just brutal for lower back and knee-based issues. But by running barefoot, you're learning to then better move that force across the whole body and land more appropriately. So you actually have a shorter stride. The reason you have a shorter stride when you're running barefoot is because you don't keep your front foot way out in front of you, and that you're going to break and land on that heel, and you're going to cause all that stress on your skeletal system as well as your muscles. So there's a lot of benefits to it. However, humans were never meant to run on these hard surfaces, and they were also never meant to run really long distances. We're not meant for that. Like literally the human body is not constructed on that. If we were, we'd have 4 legs, but also we have a nice long and strong Achilles tendon, great for sprinting. Our glutes are basically our glute muscles, and our butt are the strongest, largest muscles in our body, and they're perfectly adapted for sprinting, not for more long distance training. And also going along with this as well, when you look at animals that do a lot of even longer distance running or just more equipped for it, is they have paws, and the paws are more padded. Like even if you have a dog, feel your dog's paw. You'll feel the padding that I'm talking about. Better shock absorption. Humans don't have that shock absorption on their foot. And also when you look at that other, like horses, they have a hard heel or hard hoof, and that allows them then to be able to pound on rocks and other those things as well. So you have to keep in mind is just our bodies are not well adapted for long distance running, and then definitely not adapted for barefoot running as well. On grass, on soft dirt, absolutely, but not on hard concrete. And if you are, especially not for long distances, just keep that in mind as well. Plus, the foot itself can hold up. It really can. You can train it that way, and I'm going to teach you how to train it up the different levels. But the bigger thing to me is that it doesn't take into account landing on rocks or landing on all the other things that are on the roads that can really take you out of the game, can bruise up your foot and take you out of the running game, which is obviously, I try to keep people in the game, being able to do what they love, keep themselves active, and all of those things, as well. So I believe that's really important and not being looked at right now. But the larger issue is when you are running long distances is you should have some type of shock absorption. I'm a big proponent of going from a regular running shoe, let's call it like an Asics running shoe or a New Balance or a Saucony or one of those, traditional ones with a bigger heel. It's like an inch heel or an inch and a half heel. A lot of padding. It allows you to do that heel striking that I'm not a big fan of and that our bodies weren't designed for. That braking mechanism. It's actually, one of the best marathoners, when you see them, it's very low striking time and they're always moving forward. It's called forward displacement. Basically, your upper body's just leaning just about 5 degrees forward. You're always moving forward. You're not braking back. Okay, so you start with a standard running shoe and then you move to something like a Nike Free, like a 5.0 or a 3.0. And then you just move down. The 5.0 just literally means the degree of pitch in the heel. That means how high the heel is. Believe it's like 5 millimeters, then it goes down to 3 millimeters. And then after that, if you're a runner, after you feel good, meaning like, okay, your Achilles are used to it, your calves are used to it, your ankle, all the muscles in your feet, because they're going to get harder trained the less shoe you have, right? So it's like your shoe is like your weight belt. Take off the weight belt, your body then has to do more work. And then after you're done moving through like the Nike Free, those types of things, and again, I have no benefit to using Nike Frees or not. I'm just trying to work you down the ladder in the degree of the heel. Then you could use something like, which I've used in the past, which is I believe the shoe is called the Minimus, or another one is, I'm trying to think of the brand name of it. Mizuno makes one, Merrell makes one. I have the Merrell Trail Glove, it's called, and it's a couple of years old now, but literally it's a 0 degree pitch. It's almost looks like the rubber tire to like literally a tire in your car, and it has no padding really whatsoever except for that little rubber padding, and that's basically truly barefoot, not true barefoot, but close, but it gives me some protection when running or sprinting against rocks and things like that. I'm already learned how to run mid-foot striking or front foot striking, but this now protects me from the road, and that's a really nice thing as well. And it's the same thing as running 5 fingers, except your toes are obviously not all separated, but it is a Vibram-based sole or Vibram-based sole on the shoe. And I believe that's kind of like a nice in-between. If you're going to do a little longer distance running, you're going to run on asphalt. This doesn't give you a lot of cushion, but it does protect the foot from the ground. So, all right, to recap today, I highly do not recommend running barefoot on asphalt. It's going to break down the actual foot and ankle. It's going to potentially lead to more damage from all of those strikes. Now, could you sprint outside a nice clean area? Absolutely. Yep, you could. No problem at all. But why not use a 0 degree pitch, something like any of the sneakers? I mean, honestly, I don't have a preference for which one. I've just used the Mizuno as well as the Merrell Trail Glove for that, or the Vibram 5-finger sneakers, which are still popular. And then when you're doing your weight training in the gym, if you feel comfortable, absolutely go barefoot, as long as, again, there's no cuts in your feet, anything like that. You're not worried about the exposure to everything on the ground. And it allows you to really get into your squats, your deadlifts, your lunges, your step-ups. You can just better feel the ground. And when you have that surface when you're doing a squat, there's better contact between your foot and the ground, and that allows for a more natural movement of the muscles and, of course, better results because they're more stimulus on the actual muscles themselves. Don't be surprised, though, for the first week or two, if your calves are just far more fatigued and your ankles from having to do that much more work. That will pass in time. Just ease into it. So hopefully today was kind of a good, bad, and ugly of barefoot training and how there are so many benefits, but also there can be a lot of cons. And I just want to help protect you before you ever have to suffer in any of those injuries and keep your training safe and healthy. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another Cabral Concept. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.